Should you avoid buying EVGA GPUs or maybe even sell the one that you have right now? If you guys were paying attention yesterday, EVGA is no longer working with Nvidia. That seems like such a casual statement, but the ramifications are absolutely massive. To make it clear, they did say they're going to hold a certain amount of GPUs back, so that way they can do RMAs for the next several years, but we see some potential issues with that. First, let's talk about how important this is that EVGA is no longer working with Nvidia. It's not like some small board partner that, really wasn't relevant to begin with. During last year, the amount of EVGA GPUs that you as a buyer would have seen out in the market is absolutely stunning. For a while, it almost seemed that any GPU that you could actually find in stock at retailers, even on the secondhand market, seemed to be an EVGA and more likely a for the win 3. They made a lot of those, especially 3090s, 3070, 3080, 3080 Ti. The EVGA for the win 3 absolutely everywhere, not only in retail stores. Now, I'm talking about the US market. I know it is different in Europe and other parts of the world, but you have to remember the US market is also going to be the largest one, often by a pretty big margin. So it's definitely pretty impressive, the amount of EVGA GPUs that were just out in the market. You would have them at Micro Center, which is a retail store in the US and various states. They had a tremendous amount, everything including the 3090 for the 1.3, everything down to the 3060, 3060 Ti. Of course, EVGA also had a massive amount of bundles across various retailers, primarily Ant Online. If you guys got a GPU from them, you would have gotten it in a bundle with maybe a keyboard, a mouse, a power supply, all branded by EVGA. It was very rare to see a bundle for other companies on their respective sites. Asus had a smaller one, Zotac would sell GPUs and things like that, but EVGA by far the biggest in the market. Not to mention, EVGA themselves sold a whole lot of GPUs. If you guys remember, I am sure you were on the EVGA queue for perhaps months, maybe years before you got your notification. That was one of the primary ways that people got their GPUs. When they couldn't make it to a store and line up for hours before opening like Best Buy or Micro Center, if they weren't fast enough to beat the bots on Amazon, and if they didn't want to pay 2 to 3 times the price on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, somebody would sign up for the EVGA queue, and often you would get that GPU. Most of the time, in my experience, that's how I got some of my EVGA GPUs. Sometimes it took a month or two, but some GPUs, if they were really in demand, I've heard of stories of taking over a year, so definitely wasn't, the best system for everybody, but for a lot of people, within a few weeks, a few months, you certainly would be guaranteed to get a GPU, generally depending on when you signed up. And then to add to that, aside from the queue, EVGA had their B stock. I know recently a lot of people got GPUs from there. That's basically refurbished GPUs that EVGA sells themselves, often with a little bit less of a warranty, and it's definitely going to be cheaper. And of course, they had their associates program where you would get discount codes. You had the, EVGA rewards. So a whole big ecosystem. And remember, EVGA was exclusive to Nvidia. Asus and MSI, they're going to make AMD GPUs and Nvidia GPUs. It's not quite the same. EVGA was really just on Nvidia. So that means that while, yes, EVGA was very, very important, they were important not only for GPU buyers, but also for Nvidia themselves. I mean, look at the amount of GPUs that they were able to sell. The Founders Edition, Nvidia couldn't even keep up with it on their own website. They had to relegate that task just exclusively to Best Buy, who also sold, EVGA, but they sold Founders Edition in the US. That's the only place you could actually find them. And you could buy a Founders Edition directly from Nvidia, but that website had a lot of problems with bots and it just wasn't very reliable. Eventually, they passed that torch on to Best Buy. Coincidentally, Founders Edition, one of the reasons why EVGA was a little bit mad, just because they were, sold at MSRP, which was cheaper than what EVGA would be able to sell the GPUs for. So as you can see, my point is that EVGA had a huge grasp on the US market, significant grasp. That's the GPU you were most likely to run into, especially when it was really hard to find a GPU. You likely were going to get a for the 1.3. That's just the way I saw it. Many people saw it. And in fact, that wasn't really a bad thing because EVGA has or had, or maybe still has, I guess, depending on your definition of how far they're going to go, one of the best warranties, if not the best warranty in the entire GPU business. I myself myself sent in several GPUs over the last several years that had issues that just popped up. I even had a water-cooled GPU that stopped working, and I sent it to EVGA. Of course, I put the air cooler back. They never gave me a problem about it. They replaced and fixed the GPU, sent me back a whole new GPU, never had a problem again. So various reports you guys can read online. Of course, there are all those people that are going to complain about EVGA, maybe some of the quality issues, but generally, you're not going to find too many people complaining about their warranty. It's almost objectively one of the easiest and best ones to deal with in the industry. Pretty fast. They have a very, easy system to follow, and I can say that because I've used it myself several times, not only for the GPUs, but even recently I just got a power supply back that had an issue. They fixed it without any problems at all. So they have a really good warranty. Now comes the point of the video. Should you avoid buying EVGA GPUs? Because even though they said, and I'll be clear about that they're still gonna, of course, honor their warranties, who knows how long they're going to be able to do it for? What if there are issues that pop up and they have not been able to hold back enough inventory for them to replace GPUs? What's going to happen then? I mean, GPUs typically do last a pretty long time, but I must say there have been some issues, and specifically with EVGA GPUs like the 3090, 3080 Ti. Remember when they were bricking GPUs, like even with that Amazon game? Something like, the menu would have really high frames per second and damage the GPU because of, some weird issue. And of course, they found out that there were some defects in especially the 3090s, the 4013, those GPUs. Of course, EVGA exchanged all of those, and I'm sure they fixed the process, and later on, GPUs weren't as bad. But if you're looking to buy a GPU, especially if you pick it up on the much cheaper used market now as they start to flood the market, it could be one of the early ones that still had issues, and who knows if these problems will pop up again. It's possible you may game on it for a few months or a few years, and that may brick the GPU years down the road, and who knows what financial health EVGA is going to be in. Right now, all that we know is that they're not working with Nvidia. It was like 80% of their business. They're holding on to GPUs so that they can do RMAs. They're still going to honor their warranties. So all that is, of course, what they would say and what you would expect for the next few years. But what if they can't get enough GPUs to do warranties? What if there's larger incidences as these GPUs flood the market from miners who may have not noticed the problem, and maybe it goes to gamers where all of a sudden when they're playing a game, instead of mining, which could have worked fine during the game, it could be artifacting, it could have other issues that were never picked up. Maybe that miner never used it for like that Amazon game, for example, and the gamer maybe tries it and it bricks the GPU like 3 years from now. Is EVGA gonna have enough stock? We would hope so. I mean, their warranty's always been good, but without that cash flow from Nvidia, as bad as that relationship was that they say, who knows exactly what's going to happen? So we come to the question, should you avoid EVGA GPUs? While I don't think you should avoid them, you do have to keep in mind the potential for future warranty issues now that the company has gone through a pretty catastrophic change. Like, this is massive. They're not working with Nvidia, which was, their main form of business. They still have power supplies and keyboards, but those are going to be, a smaller part of their business as of now. And remember, GPU sales go down and power supply sales are also going to go down. They're tied to the gaming and crypto market as well. So they're not going to sell as many as they did during the last 2 years. So now that these GPUs are going to start flooding the market because of crypto, I would just be a little bit cautious, especially 3090s, which were probably ran kind of hot because of their VRAM. There's no way around it, even with good cooling. I'd be a little less scared of maybe like a 3060 or 3070. Anything with GDDR6X VRAM, which has the potential to just run much hotter, and maybe it could have been abused and not taken care of, and have some of those early defects and build quality issues with like the 3090, 3080 Ti, those I'd be a little more cautious about. And unless you do get a really good deal, of course, now is not the best time to buy GPUs anyway, because I think the next few weeks, after RTX 4000 is announced, which is likely next week, we're going to see prices go down for a while even further. But as we learn more about what EVGA plans to do in the future, we see if they're going to work with another company, AMD or Intel. We don't really think right now. They said no, so as far as we know, nothing's going on. And anyway, Nvidia GPUs are going to be separate from whatever they do in the future, but you do have to wonder about their financial health going forward. Can they really maintain their business for 4 or 5 years later on? I mean, their power supplies have like 10-year warranties, and for the GPUs, the warranties are typically much less, but people also bought extended warranties that they used to sell for the EVGA GPUs. And who's to say that in a year or two from now, can they guarantee that they have enough inventory for RMA so that they can switch GPUs out that are broken? Are they going to give people credits? I don't really know what's going to happen. So while I would only buy an EVGA GPU now if you get a pretty good deal, I wouldn't necessarily sell yours if you have one and it's not giving you any issues, because more than likely their warranty service was so amazing that I have a hard time seeing how they would just stiff people. But it's possible that before they were a lot more lenient with their warranty. Let's say if you damaged it, or if it's something that they can't really prove that's a defect, before most likely they would have just swapped it out because it was good business and they were good warranty and they could afford to do so. Going forward, if they have a limited number of GPUs to swap out and it's not really their fault, whatever you're sending a GPU into, they may be a lot pickier about these type of warranty repairs than before. Before, it was an amazing warranty regardless of what happened, but going forward, if they can prove that it's not really their fault, they may possibly have to deny your warranty because they're not going to be able to fulfill as many as they would if this was a regular, ongoing market where they had more resources. So very, very possible that can be an issue. They're going to be a lot more picky with their GPU warranty, therefore giving you a more significant problem in the future. So this is good information for you guys to be aware of in case you're considering an EVGA GPU. If I were you, try to get a really good price, maybe a little bit better than normal, because you don't know how the future is going to be, even if they're saying they're going to cover it anyway. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.